because they're so like finely machined.
Yeah.
And when it's going through, you can just feel how smooth it is.
And they're pin friction, so there's a cone on the end of each one of those metal wheels that rides in a similar cone of a different angle in the plastic.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
it's just only riding on the very tip of the pin. So you know the plastic may be on this angle, but the pin is on this angle, so that it goes in and it just rides on the very point. So you minimize friction as much as possible. And then you have, of course, a metal wheel with a Delrin plastic, which is self-lubricating plastic chassis. And that's how you get the efficiency, which is what you were talking about, not wanting to do metal on metal. It's best to do metal on plastic. Like with gears, you alternate metal, plastic to get the best efficiency. So we've tried brass and stainless steel and really don't see a difference.
Yeah, and then putting it on is pretty easy as well, right? With the bendable track.
You just kind of, I mean, you pick a place where the cross ties are kind of far apart, and you can just kind of pull it apart.
So that's pretty similar to Connect's.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. Can you crank it around a couple times?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, ready?
Yep.
The excitement of it all is building.
Here we go.
So kids, what we're working with is potential energy behind a dam.
Right.
And now we get to the top, we have our full potential, and now we're using kinetic energy.
So you all know what we do, and you know, we've been around since 2004. I started the company with Mike Graham. I think a lot of you probably know Mike Graham from Gravity Group. You know, I began the company in 2004, and we debuted our first product at No Coaster Con in Chicago. I don't know if anybody here was at that event. Probably not. Okay. That was pretty exciting. The first thing we came out with was the Dragon, which was a really large working model of a B&M inverted. And we stayed up all night and built it and had all these prototype parts. And then we debuted it at No Coaster Con. We had a big sheet over it. And when we unveiled it, it was amazing. Everybody ran up and took pictures of it. It was really a cool thing. So that's how we got started, and we've evolved quite a bit since then. So right now, our product line consists, I can kind of go back and show you. We have two parts of our product line. We have the part of our product line which caters to the enthusiast, which are the nano coasters, which you've probably seen in the parks. These are just, they're made of metal and acrylic. And you take them and you sort of punch them out, and you can build different coasters with them. The user assembles them. And those are becoming pretty popular right now. And then we have our line of block coasters, which are Lego compatible, or, world's leading building block system compatible. So you can take your existing world's leading building blocks and put them in with our stuff and create whatever you want. You know, in the past, we've made the Scorpion, which is, it's an O-gauge roller coaster, which is a kit also, but it's much more realistic than the Lego style models. But there are reasons we don't make that anymore, but we're thinking about going back and maybe doing a run of them. So, you know, but the nano coasters right now are probably the most popular thing that we do in terms of the enthusiast community, and they're getting more popular. Different parks have come on board. We had Six Flags come on board last year, and they've got a whole bunch they want to do this year. And you know, I don't know. Does anybody here have nano coasters?
Yeah.
Okay. So finally somebody raised it.
I do now.
Do you now? Oh, did you win that one? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's my favorite one, by the way. It's really neat. But and we've got a you know, the block-based roller coasters back there. They're all like wooden coasters. We've got a new one coming out this year. We did a Kickstarter. It's called the Sidewinder. It's a looping coaster. That'll be out in the spring. And we're also, I probably shouldn't say this, but we're doing a version of Little Dipper for Kings Island, themed for the Beast. So it'll be called the Beast, and it'll be in brown, and you know, even though it's just a Little Dipper and it's not 7,000 some feet long, it's yeah, it's going to be pretty neat. It's something we've wanted to do with the parks for a while. You know, excuse me. To do just a reasonable facsimile of a coaster, even if it's very basic, if you brand it for the coaster, we feel it'll still do really well. So that's coming next summer, and they're celebrating 40 years, I think, of the Beast. So it's in conjunction with that. But everybody was asking me lots of questions back there, so I know there's a ton of questions about what we do.
So I'm not as familiar. Are most of them replicas of existing things, or is it the sort of thing where you can create your own?
Are you talking about the nanos?
The blocks.
Oh, the blocks. They're named after actual coasters, but you know, we picked Cyclone because there are 40-some cyclones throughout time. Just a common name. The fact that it has Cyclone on the side will, of course, make people think of the Coney Island Cyclone, but we don't say that because we don't want to pay any royalties to them or anything. So
I was going the other way with that. I was wondering if parks hired you to create replicas for their audience to bring.
You know, we did that. We did a big Griffin model when Griffin came out for Busch Gardens. We were at the I-305 thing. We did a big I-305 model. When they unveiled it, you know, the curtain came down and there was I-305, this model we had. And we did a Diamondback model for Kings Island. We don't do as much of that anymore. But we kind of like doing that. It's a lot of work, though. Yeah.
When I-305 was reprofiled, they had you come back and reprofile the model too?
No. He didn't do that. Would have been fun. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about making any future plans about distribution? In other words, am I going to see you on the Walmart shelf or Amazon or what?
Okay, so the block-based coasters, they're available on Amazon, specialty toy stores, Walmart.com. We're on a lot of .coms with those models. So they're pretty available. We had a really good Christmas with them. You know, they've been remarkably popular considering Lego released a roller coaster this year. We thought that might impact us. I don't think it negatively impacted us much, especially when theirs is, you know, $380 and ours is $150. But yeah, you know, you'll see them popping up more and more, I think. Amazon was good. You know, that seems to be where a lot of people are shopping now. We're really trying to promote the specialty stores. We have, like our Little Dipper, our smallest one, we have a thing where you can, we sell a display case with a little push button, and we sell that to specialty stores, and they have it sitting there, and kids can come up and push buttons on it and watch it operate. And that's really helped us this year in terms of getting it out there. Because if you, sorry, I've got this cold, but if you see the boxes are sort of engaging, but you really don't know what you're getting. You know, if you look at this box, it's like, okay, well, I guess it looks like a roller coaster, but you know, when you actually see it, it's just a whole different thing. And we want to get as many of them built into stores and stuff as we can, so that people can actually see what it's about and interact with it. Because it is a neat product to play with, for adults and for kids.
What were kind of the technical or the hurdles in designing block-based coasters?
The biggest hurdle for the block-based coasters is the rail. The rail comes as an extrusion, a long piece. It's made like, if you ever had a Play-Doh, like Fuzzy Pumper Barbershop, and you push down, you get these long, what we call extrusions. So the rails are an extrusion, and they're made of a rigid material. They have to be made of a rigid material because they have to be very smooth and they have to snap on. So when you start snapping those on, they want to take the form of when they were coiled up. They have some memory. So what we had to do was build a structure that was strong enough to resist those rails wanting to just fling it apart. And when we first started building our prototypes, and we used the rail that we used with our Scorpion, it was a stiffer rail, and we had to use Lego pieces to do all of our prototyping. So we would build a prototype out of Lego pieces and use our old rail, and it would just fly apart. So we almost gave up on the concept, but we realized that we had to redo the rail, come up with a little bit softer rail, and when, like, our pieces in those kits, they fit a little tighter than like a Lego piece. The clutch strength is what they call it. The clutch strength is higher, and that allows us to build these models and not have them, get flung apart and become a mess. So there was a lot to it. There really was.
I have one of this. I also liked, or found it interesting that you had to have the smooth corners in order to do your turns.
Right, the radius, yeah. Yeah, that was a unique part. I've since found out Lego does make that part, but at the time we didn't. We weren't very knowledgeable about Lego when we started this. I had an intern that worked for me, and he was really into it, and we were trying to keep him busy. And we're like, let's see if we can design like a Lego roller coaster. And he came up with some cool ideas, and we just kind of went with it. Something we talked about doing, but we never really pursued. It's pretty ambitious, actually.
Like, it seems like the block system would be more complex.
Yeah, the block system's a lot harder. There's a lot more engineering. You have to engineer every piece and have to make molds and everything like that. The learning curve on the nano coasters, my engineer, he works in SolidWorks, and he's pretty adept at SolidWorks, but he'll be the first to admit he's not a pro at SolidWorks. So he got together with Mike Graham, actually at Skyline Chili. I heard someone talking about Skyline Chili a little bit ago, in Cincinnati, because they're both in Cincinnati. And they came up with a way on SolidWorks to do it almost like sheet metal. So it's drawn like sheet metal, and then you fold it around. And they got that figured out, and they're actually not that bad to do right now. In fact, we just hired, the guy that, has anybody seen the Cedar Point, the Steel Vengeance model they built? It's at Cedar Point. Okay, so the guy that did that, we approached him before Christmas, and we're like, hey, you're good at SolidWorks, would you like to design some nano coasters? We have like 25 of them to do this year, we just can't do them all. And he's like, sure. And he just got back with me this morning, and he did like 14 of them in like a week. So, yeah, that was very helpful. But, yeah, so I think once you're good at SolidWorks, it's a lot easier to do the nano coasters. But there's a lot that goes into that, because we have to do box art. The park has to send us images, and we have to do a render and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into doing one, but it's nothing near like what a kit would be.
I was asking because our park has the folks that have been there have we have a Wildcat, and it's one of the original steel coasters. I'm just trying to see, like, how do I get you to get a Wildcat model? To commemorate the Wildcat.
Yeah, no, nano coasters. Are you talking about a nano coaster, Rob?
No, I'm talking about a block coaster. I think it'd be amazing.
I also feel
I'll
like
talk
that.
about it offline.
I also feel like that about Wild One.
All right, I'll write all this down.
Take care of this for us?
Sure. See you guys later. I got some business to take care of.
Have you thought about like maybe having like an online like design competition and like with a prize? Because I know like Kennex and Lego, like they kind of started doing stuff like that. It seems really popular with kids and encourage like, because a lot of my friends that buy those things, they buy multiple kits and like design their own custom one. It seems like it would like encourage.
Yeah, we've talked about doing that. We talked about going that through parks too.
Yeah.
Like have a day where the kids come into the park and we supply them with X number of kits, and they get 2 or 3 kits and X number of hours, and whoever builds the coolest design, or you give them you give them things like, okay, this has to have 3 inversions, and it has to have a minimum height of this. I think we'll probably do that at some point. You know, we haven't done anything like that. We had a pretty good community of people when we had our Scorpion models. We had a really large community of people that were active on YouTube, and they would build custom models, and we did a line called Statics. I'm sure you've probably seen those. They were just roller coaster like train models that we would sell in the parks, and you could put metal wheels on them and run them on our system. And a lot of people would build recreations and put them on YouTube. And in fact, right now there's a guy that uses our Cyclone, like the block system, and he's done like the Kennywood rides. And if you go on YouTube and you put in, you know, CDX blocks, Thunderbolt or CDX blocks Jackrabbit, he has some amazing rides that he's done. Even some on-ride video he did. It's really cool. He did an RMC too that was just amazing. Just, I don't know, it was like 16 feet long or something. It was pretty ambitious. But that's the nice thing about those. You can create whatever you want, you know, with the system and enough kits. That's the caveat, I guess. But
Are you making any changes to the train to do the looping version?
No, the train will be the same train.
There's a little bit of limit on the radius that you can do.
Right, the radius of the loop. Yeah. No, it's going to be the same train. But you wouldn't believe, the train was the hardest part of the whole kit to do. I think we had, like 7 iterations where we have the train design, but then we have to have the wheels and the flanges and the diameters all such that the train doesn't bind and all this and that. And you know, it has to stay on the track, but you still could take it off the track if you needed to. And we finally, I think about 6 or 7 iterations, we got it right. All these different machine wheels that we tried, and things like that. But I saw something. Yeah.
What are some of the reasons you guys don't continue the Statics or like Scorpion or Dragon model or something?
Okay, I was waiting for that. I thought that was going to be the first question that I got asked. There's a couple reasons for it. I guess economics is one. The parks, they didn't turn around and reorder Statics. And this is what Mark was saying earlier. There's this fine line between being an enthusiast and being a business person. And the enthusiast part of me, when I came up with Statics, was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And it wasn't. I mean, I thought it was cool. You know, probably a lot of you thought it was really cool. Enthusiasts loved it, but the parks didn't. Probably because the general public doesn't care what a B&M or an Intamin is. They just, that's why the Nano Coasters are popular. It's the whole ride, in the colors of the ride. Okay, take this home. So it was kind of I don't want to say it was a bust. Some places did well with it, but most places we didn't get reorders. We base everything on reorders, you know. The Nano Coasters have done stupid numbers at some parks. So, stupid being good. So, you know, and the other reason is the company we were working with that was doing the molds for some of the Scorpion molds and the Statics molds, but we were working with 2 companies, and all of the Statics molds and the lift components for the Scorpion were made by one company overseas. And in 2009, 2010, they ran into some financial problems, and we had close to $300,000 in molds for all the Statics, all this and that, and they just disappeared with our molds. So we have no molds to do them anymore if we wanted to. So we still have the inverted train though, fortunately, for the Scorpion. So that's why we were considering doing the Scorpion. But it's not as simple as just rerunning the parts. We have to remake the molds that got, whatever, destroyed or stolen or whatever. I haven't seen anything else come out. If you see Statics anywhere, let me know. But I don't think anybody else is going to take a chance on that. Yes.
On the Nano Coasters, do you have any defunct coasters included in that line, or do you have plans to?
You know, a couple of parks have asked us about doing that. I think that's sort of the enthusiast part of the people in the park coming through. You know, the nano coasters that do really well are the Millennium Forces, of course, and Steel Vengeance and things like that. They're always going to sell the best. So I don't know. I mean, we don't now, but and you know, everybody's like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. We don't make that decision. You know, the parks tell us what they want, because we sell a few through our website, but most of them are sold through the parks because of copyright things. Now, some of the parks are more willing now to let us sell them because they don't have any online presence. So they're like, well, you know, these things seem to sell pretty well at Christmas time. We did it with Cedar Point one year, where they let us sell them at Christmas, and we sold a lot. We sold an awful lot, and I think they saw that. So you might start seeing them more and more on our site, because not everybody can go out to Magic Mountain and get X2, you know. And there's people that collect all of them. So it's kind of neat. I like to see when people have like big display cases full of them.
How many designs do you have now?
I don't know. It's a lot. I mean, we've got, like I said, we've got about 25 new ones that we're doing for this season. I don't even know how many we have. I mean, we probably have 50. I had a company when I got right out of college. I started a company, and we made tires for radio-controlled cars, foam tires for radio-controlled cars. And that company was pretty successful, and it allowed me to do cool things like start this company. Now that company, I sold the tire part of that company. And so this probably consumes most of my time. I have 4 businesses, but this one is the one that, you know, accounts for most of my time. And although, you know, Mike and I are partners on it, Mike doesn't do anything anymore because he's too busy designing trains and roller coasters for Gravity Group. So he had a lot of input in the Cyclone, but since then you know, we talk, but he hasn't really done any design work. Mike's a brilliant engineer, by the way. He's amazing. He's really good.
Where are you located at?
About 2 hours from here in Elkton, Virginia. Does anybody in here have any of the Lego coasters? I mean, they have a number of them. Okay, they have.
She has one of the Friends. You have one of the Friends one.
Okay.
Yeah, which was one of the first ones.
So they have their big one that they came out with. It's like $300 and some, and then they have Pirate something or other, which is awesome because you take the car to the top and it doesn't even make it around the first turn. But anyway, that's just me. But I mean, the great thing about our stuff is, like if you see the Lego roller coaster, the $380 coaster, it's awesome. It's got a lot of theming. It's really neat. But when people combine 2 or 3 sets, it just looks like a bigger Lego roller coaster. You know, it's very limited. It has molded track pieces. You have down bands. It's like Roller Tycoon-ish in terms of how you would construct hills and everything. Ours is it's very versatile with the flexible track. You can build anything you want. You can twist it. You can, you know, if you can imagine it, you can build it. And there's really no limitations. I mean, you could conceivably fill this room full of parts and build, you know, a 1-to-1 roughly replica of whatever you wanted. And then of course there's the efficiency of the train, which the efficiency of our train is much closer to the efficiency of a real coaster train, as opposed to the Lego coaster, which isn't, but it's not meant to be, you know. Wasn't really. We were at the Toy Fair last year, and one of their engineers from Denmark came by, and he was looking at our roller coaster. He said, "Can I take some pictures?" And I said, "Sure." Yeah, whatever. This was before they announced that they had one, but we all knew they did. And he was looking at it, and he's like, he took the train off, and he's taking pictures of the wheels and everything. So and he puts it back on. So he's like very nice, and he left. He came back like 2 hours later, and he said, "I just want to let you know," he goes, I've just walked this whole show, and he goes, "This is the coolest thing at the whole Toy Fair." And I'm like, "Oh, well, it's pretty good coming from a Lego engineer."
Yeah.
So, and I asked him if I could go see their coaster, and he said no. That's true, I did. And he said no. But yeah, they're just 2 different animals. I mean, theirs is much better for probably younger kids. You know, the biggest thing, the biggest constraint is size. See, I get to build all the custom models. I got to build the Griffin model, I got to build Diamondback, I-305, and every time when I finish one of those models, I swear I'll never build another one. Because it takes so damn much work, and you have to paint all the supports a custom color and everything. I got roped into making 3 SNS, like Batman type spin models. 1 for SNS here, and then 2 for Sansai in Japan. And that about drove me mad. So it's just a lot of work, but I don't really have anything that I've always wanted. You know what? Yes, I do. Loch Ness Monster. I've always wanted a Loch Ness Monster. That's what got me into roller coaster models. I mean, I got into roller coasters in '78 when all the coasters were built. Gemini, Loch Ness Monster, all these things were built in 1978. It was on the cover of Life magazine and Time magazine, and like coasters were the biggest thing. And that's when I got into it, and I've always just loved Loch Ness Monster. So I'd like to have a model of that in case anybody would like to build me one.